Don't worry about the next, because it's your boy Chris with the next, and I'm back with another podcast, The X Zone with Chris Sharp, or by Chris Sharp, however I want to word it. This is The X Zone with Chris Sharp. Now today's topic is going to be a recap, a review of the BET Awards 2026. But before I get into that, if you want to donate to the show, any donations is gladly accepted. My Cash App is $GetXMoney09. It'll be in the description. You know, it helps out with advertising. It helps out with, clarity of my voice. I can get some tea. I can do all types of stuff with donations. Eventually get to my own app, like Whitney Houston said, step by step. You got to day by day, stone by stone. Rome was not built in one day. Okay, and I've been doing this on and off for since 2008. Whether it's video or you just hear my voice or combined, So this is nothing new for me. I love doing what I do. All right, so getting into the BET Awards recap, review, because the reason why I feel like I want to do a review, because I feel like BET is starting to get its prestige again, because the last few years was the EBT Awards. And I know BET, Bob Johnson sold it out. Now he wants it back from what I heard, but he's not getting it back. He sold it to a white man. No disrespect to my white followers, but the history of BET, just like Soul Train, is that a lot of black artists was not getting put on. With Soul Train, you had, before that, it was American Bandstand with Dick Clark. Only Diana Ross and the Supremes was put on there. They was the first black act. And it was all because of Diana Ross's voice was a crossover. She was easy enough for the white people to listen to and still good enough for the black people to listen to. Just like Brandy. Some people have that, that in between, But a lot of people, we had a lot of artists that needed to be put on. Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, Shaka Khan, and you name it, Entombed, so forth and so forth. And the Soul Train was just that. It was a black staple. And it was just that. And when I was growing up, it came out in the 70s, I was born in the 90s. My mother said when it would come on, I would just know when it come on because I would get up and start dancing and I would watch Soul Train. So dancing is in my blood. Soul Train is a staple. He even had, a couple of white artists, Latino artists, like the Barrio Boys was on there. Color Me Bad was on there, which they have a black artist in that group, a multicultural boy band. A Backstreet Boys was on there. It's a few, David Bowie, Tina Marie. That was our staple. And then BET, was like our MTV, because MTV was not playing black artists. Except for Michael Jackson, he came on, first black artist. Then Whitney Houston was the second black artist and the first black female. I think Michael Jackson was with Billie Jean, and then Whitney Houston was with How Will I Know. But we had a lot of other black artists that was, out. You'd have Ronald Isley and and his brother, the Isley brothers. Had a lot. Just anybody that was out in the 80s. Again, Aretha Franklin, they had music videos. A lot of people had music videos back then. And BET was our staple for that. Janet Jackson, all of them. And I was watching a clip where Monique was dancing to Beyonce's Crazy in Love. Because Beyonce haven't been there in 13 years. Some say it's because they made fun of Blue Ivy, and I can see that. However, it's just, it kind of lost its prestige. In a couple, when Monique was up there, she was doing good. Then after that, it just became the EBT Awards. Sexy Red there. I just didn't, I don't think she should be at the BET Awards. That last year's was just monsters, just CIA type of shit. Because Sexy Red should have been in. She can't sing, she can't rap. Ice Spice, Like, just the ratchetness that she had going on. A lot of them can rap, but again, it was just ratchetness. It just, it was not, that would make, if it was the Source Awards, now the Source Awards, that was a hood award. The Source Awards, that was a hood award, even though Beyonce went to that one too. And there was another one, another magazine that I cannot remember, but I remember Kaya and Trina was there. And, Kaya was looking at Trina in the audience. They got a clip of it in YouTube, but that was a hood award. Now, see, that's hood. I don't know if it was Black Men Magazine or somebody's magazine, but yeah, I think it was Vibe Awards, maybe the Vibe Awards. I'm not sure, but those more hood. But this year, it became, I started to see improvement. Drewski, he came out, first of all, with the advertisement with Chris Rock and Drewski. It was very calculated and great. The promotion, I liked it. They went to celebrities' houses, very star-studded, very honorable celebrities. Then, Drewski came out with his very controversial church performance, mocking those preachers that mock God, because we got a lot of preachers that's going to go to hell. Just like In Touch with Stanley Drew said, rest in peace to him. And, he had various different skits. Kiki Palmer said she should have been a host of it. I think they setting her up for next year. She's going to be the host next year. That was just her introduction. They're going to host her next year. Because, Kiki Palmer is another one that's funny and unproblematic. She be everywhere. She got her own little show on YouTube and everywhere you can find her. He made fun of Jay-Z. A very good comedian. He's, played a white man. He could play anything. Erica Kirk, anybody. So the hosting was great. And then Kiki Palmer, she got some stuff up her sleeve next year for 2027. Then I like that Janet Jackson came on the stage and gave Tiana Taylor her Icon Award. And Tiana Taylor, she's grown up a lot and she's proven herself a lot. It's sort of how like when Sierra first came out, now she's very prestigious, that graduation of just now, getting known and getting your foot into doors. Because, people will be like, oh, you just a hood artist, you just a black artist. They both show that they can be anywhere, in any space at any time. And, just Janet Jackson popping out. This was her first time at the BET Awards since her brother had passed away. Just a lot of positive vibes there. And some of the dresses and clothes and look good. Some people didn't. Pinky Doll thought this was the Met Gala. I don't know what she was doing there. But she was on the carpet, the red carpet nevertheless. And, I just like the whole overall theme. Now, what I do want to get into is that white men coming there to protest that black people are not good parents. Now, I don't know what the fuck he was doing there. I don't know what this whole Chud the Builder stuff is going on. Everybody want to be his little copycat repeat. But y'all got to remember, you keyboard warriors, when you get in person, anything can pop off. Now, luckily, he walked away with his life. I don't know if he got arrested or anything. But he could really got his ass beat and jumped. Like, I don't know if they want to be a reincarnation of Charlie Kirk or they want to be like the soldiers of Chud the Builder. But like Mike Tyson said, don't let online actions get your ass kicked in real life. Like, I don't know what this whole trolling in real life is going on, but some people are about that life and they ain't got nothing to lose. You over talking greasy? Am I advocating murder or abuse? No, I don't condone violence. I don't condone abuse. Just like the Baddies West, a Baddies franchise, I don't like any of that. They their own people, but if you see a big agenda, try to make black women look bad and black people bad all over, just like the bad boys of LA. Y'all just fighting over God knows what. A pencil could drop Oh, that pencil drop, you made it drop, made it drop. No, next minute y'all, you're busting each other's lips, snatching wigs off, pulling chains off, all types of dumb stuff. For what, $10,000 that's gonna go out in what, a week? A weekend? Like this black girl on TikTok was saying, you know, growing up in the 90s, because I'm a 90s baby slash kid, you know, we had a lot of positive TV shows. And I feel like it's thanks to Bill Cosby with the Cosby Show. In the 90s, with the 80s, you know, his show in 91, we got a lot of TV shows like Living Single, Family Matters, A Different World, which black kids was going to college, thanks to Bill Cosby, because that was the continuation that his daughter Denise was supposed to go, but you know she had gotten pregnant and canceled and whatnot. You know, then we had Living Single, which a lot of people from Different World appeared in Living Single, because again, Living Single was what happened after you graduate college. You know, a bunch of 20-something-year-olds, you know, making it into life, you know, getting into workplaces. You know, I'd be watching Living Single on WTV every day, habitually, very fresh, never gonna go out of style. You know, we had Rock. You know, shout out to the lady that played in Rock. You know, she just turned 79. You know, we had a lot of positive TV shows, and it's just not that anymore. And we can create that on Tubi and Netflix. I'm not expecting Fox to do anything, because they canceled Living Single. They canceled New York Undercover, which was our CSI. And it was a little bit better than CSI, because Night at Natalie's, you know, she had live performances. She had Aaliyah up there. She had the Body Boys up there. She had a lot of people up there. And, you know, it's just not that anymore. But anyways, any comments, questions, concerns, leave in the comment section below. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you know, share me out. Share me out wherever you hear my voice at, because I'm on a lot of podcast stations and YouTube. If you want to tongue-tied. If you want to donate to the show, my Cash App is $$GetXMoney09. That's my Cash App. Donate whatever you can. I'll appreciate it. Until then, this has been your boy, Chris of the Next, on another episode of the X Zone with Chris Sharp. Until next time, peace.